Okay, we're up to Kuf Chaf Zion on the base, Tan Rabbanan by the two dots. By the two dots in the middle, a little past the middle of the page. We had some machloikis yesterday between Rabbi Yehuda and the Chachamim, whether if we're muchsik in a child being a bechar, is the father able now to go ahead and keneged that be made? Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that yakirenu la'acherim, that you could, even though he's muchsik, that this one's the bechar, child A, he's able to say that child B is in fact the bechar. And the Chacham are of the opinion, no, that the keneged the chazaka, he's not able to go ahead, Rod, and break the chazaka to say this is a child. So they use yakir for what? For they use yakir that he can be makna something, even the shlabaloilam, he can be makna something. Okay. Terawanan. Okay, opinion, we're in the two dots in Kuf Chav Sayim and base. You muchsik that, so this child is a bechar. But Amar Aviv al Acher Shu Bechar, and the father says on the other one that he's a bechar. Neman, those mamish the words of Rabbi Yehuda. If you muchsik that this one is not a bechar, but Amar Aviv Bechar hu, and the father says this is a bechar, ain't an neman. So that would apparently contradict what you just said. And says the Gemara, Reisha Rabbi Yehuda, the Reisha that you believe is Rabbi Yehuda, the Sefer Rabbanon, and the Sefer what is the Rabbanon. And in fact, Shmuel above was Mesupik, where the halacha was like Rabbi Yehuda, or like the Chachamim. You see conflicting brises also. So that would be consistent. Says the Gemara Vaita, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Amar, he says, Benihu, he says it's my son. V'chosev v'ama avdi. And then he says it's my Eved. Einay Neman. A father won't call his son an Eved. A father won't call his Eved a son. Excuse me. He won't call an Eved his son. So the Rashbam says he's not believed. Take a look at the Rashbam, guys. Einay Neman. When it gets wide, about 8 lines down, 10 lines down. B'mayda Omar hashta avdi. Once he said he's my son, he's believed, and he's not believed to say he's my Eved. V'leka l'meima hayde korle mitchila b'ni mishum da oyevay kibinoi. And there's not a svar to say because he loves this slave like he loves his son. Dein derech likroi la'avdoi b'noi. It's not the way to call an Eved your son. You never call an Eved your son. So therefore, once you said b'ni and now you said it's my son, you're not believed. V'hilkach achatayna rishon neilech. We'll go after his first claim that it's his son. The hoyel v'zois achroina eina pirish. Since it's not the derech to call your son an Eved your son, then therefore we won't teach up. But he said afterwards, B'ni Eved, teach up that it's my son. Ki machasha, it's denying. In other words, and it's conflicting. We shouldn't go after the second taina that he says this is an Eved. The Torah believed what he said first. B'may da'ama B'ni k'dichsiv yakir, so he's be able to makir his son. The kivit shehigit shuvein chayis and magid. So Rashbam says it's a din. Once he said, he won't believe him again. So now, if he says first it's my son, then he says it's an Eved, we're not going to believe him because no one calls his Eved his son. Conversely, continues the Gemara, the opposite is the. However, if he says the following, Avdihu, he says it's my Eved, v'chazavama benihu, and then he says it's my son, then Neman. Then he's believed. The mishamishli ka'avda ka'amar. He's saying that he serves me like an Eved. In other words, over here where he first said it's an Eved and then said it's my son, we're teaching up. We're teaching up the word Eved. You know what he meant? He meant my son serves me like an Eved. Where he says first it's my son and then says it's an Eved, no one's going to call an Eved his son. On the other hand, someone will call his son an Eved. So therefore, you would be what? Believed. Kuf Chav Zayin Amid Beis, about 8 lines up. V'chilufa abeis hameches, and this is opposite when it comes to paying taxes. It seems to be you pay taxes if you had an Eved, but if you had a son, you didn't have to pay taxes on that. So, not ein chadash tachas hashemesh, right? There's nothing new. So to avoid a tax man, a person would call his son and call his Eved a son. Why? Because right, not ein chadash tachas hashemesh. V'lichufa abeis hameches. Hayover al beis hameches va'ama benihu, and he says it's my son. Because v'ama avdihu neman. Why? Because the reason he called him my son is to avoid paying tax on the eved. However, the opposite. Ama avdihu v'chaz v'ama benihu. If he said he's an eved and then says his son, then he's not believed because there's no way he's going to call him an eved and then his son if it's going to cost them money. Mesive, we're going to ask a kasha, guys. We're going to ask a kasha on the din that if he first says eved and then says son, not believed. Okay, the second part of the resha, where he first says eved and then he says son, that he's not believed. Okay, again, eved son, not believed. Mesive, mishamashoy keben. This person is being mishamash like a son. He's dressing him. He's giving him what to eat. You know the halachas of kibbud av aim. Ubav amar benihu. If he says it's my son, then he says it's my eved, he's not believed. However, if he's mishamshim like an eved, v'amar avdihu, and now he says it is an eved, and then he says b'ni ain't an eman. So again, in the ratio we said eved to b'ni, you are believed, and here he's saying eved to b'ni, you're not believed. Amar Nachman Yitzchak Chosim the Korele Avda Meitza Meya. It's not in the Brisa. It's not only that he said he's an Eved, but he's more specific. You know why he's believed? Because he said he's an Eved Meitzer Meya. My Meitzer Meya, Meitzer Avda Kuf Susi. This Eved is worth 100 sus. So the Brisa he said this is the Brisa said this is a son, and then he said it's an Eved. It's worth 100 sus, and then he says it's a Beni. Then he's going to what? Then he's not believed. Since he said an Eved, no, he said Eved, then says the Beni, he's not believed because he wouldn't have been so specific. If he just wanted to say that this son is mishamish me like an Eved, he just would have said Eved then Beni. By saying this was an Eved worth 100 sus, he's being very specific, therefore he's not believed. So in the Reisha he is believed because he said the word Eved. In the Seifa he's not believed because he added the word that he's worth to me 100 sus. Okay, now the next Gemara till the end of the daf today is a bunch of halachas that Rav Abba sent to Rabbi Yosef Bar Chama. It's a total digression. In the many cases he's going to ask him, one of them will be one that we discussed. Okay? In the many cases he's going to ask him, there'll be one that's look at the Rashbam, 2 lines from the bottom. Shalach le Rav Abba, Kol Hani Shalach le Rav Abba Rabbi Yosef Bar Chama. All these cases where Rav Abba sent to Rabbi Yosef Bar Chama, Naked Hacha, it's brought in over here. Mishun de bechad minayu, because one of them kapasik hilchas like Rabbi Yehuda. In one of them, we're going to pass in the lachal like Rabbi Yehuda that Yakir he's believed to say his son is bechar. Ubekulu hilchasa, and all of these cases the halacha is like we paskin like Rav Abba, kideshalach Rav Abba, kidevaskina b'sefer d'shmaitza, except one case. Okay, so this is a total digression, which is not strange for Baba Basra. Okay, says the Gemara. Someone says to his friend, Avdi ganafta, you stole my eved. But who am I ganafti? I didn't steal it. Okay. So now, mativu etzcha, what's it doing by you? So he says, Ata mechartali, you sold it to me. Ata nesatali b'matana. You gave it to me matana. Now let's figure out the Allah. Either taina, either one. So either let's go outside with a little knowledge of Choshen Mishpat. If a person's holding on to something, right? Person has a riot, right? Now, what about something that goydrois, something that goes ahead and moves, something that moves? So elem chazaka, goydrois, if they move, elem chazaka, because the fact that they're by you is not a riot; it's yours. Maybe you walked into your rishus. Right? So how do you avoid this problem? That's saying that this guy Tain is the Eved and he's going to be believed. So the Rashbam says it's speaking either that you had the Eved for 3 years, and therefore since you had 3 years, you had a Chazakah, or it's speaking about a baby that couldn't possibly move. So therefore, you're muchsik in this Eved. You know, we had to create a scenario to avoid the Goydrus problem, right? So you're muchsik in this Eved. Now, so the halacha would be, this guy says to you, what's my Eved doing by you? He says what? He says what? You stole it. He says what? You sold it to me. You gave it to his matana. So he'd be believed. The guy holding on to the Eved would be believed. But this is what he does now. He says, "Ritzoincha hishava v'tul." If you want, swear and take him. Okay, now we know all the Shvuas HaTorah guys. You swear to get off the hook. You know, only midrabanan would you swear to take. So the guy who's holding on to it says, "You claim it's yours. If you're willing to swear, you can have it." In other words, he's saying, it's mine. I'm muhsik in it. If you're willing to swear, you have it. V'nishba, and he swears. Eini yachal achsabai. The guy can't say, "I was just joshing with you." He can't say, "I was just kidding you." Eini yachal achsabai. You're not able to go ahead and change your mind. Let's see the first Rashbam at the top, guys.
Gets it back.
What?
He gets it.
Meaning the guy who swore takes it, and he gets it. And he can't say, "Well, I'm just fooling with you." Says the Rashbam, "Atana satali b'matana, v'neman hu b'tainazu." Right? And this person who's holding on to it is believed. V'afagav daminam b'cheskas habatim, hagoydros ein lem chazaka, anything goydros are herds, ein lem chazaka, hani mili the altar. Avalacha gimel shanim yesh lem chazaka, like I told you. Or else, v'chanami kagoin kimish hichsa b'gimel shanim, oy b'kotten hamutal barisa, a child that's in a crib, the yesh le chazaka le altar, oy be'evet shlei roi, soy be'edim zeh ha'ma'ara be'beisrael zeh. Or you never saw that this guy never established that was my Eved. No one ever saw him. Okay, now, so the Rashbam tells you why the halacha is it really belongs by the one who has it. Good. Now, he says to him, if you want to swear and take it, swear. Says the Rashbam. Ritzoincha ishava v'tol, rebusihi. This is the chiddush. The afal gav, hay machzik lema arer. Shari pata legamri zeha machzik. This machzik's pata completely. Totally a mitzvah mechaverei. Mikol shvua sheba olam. He's not chayv shvua at all. The kaimelon einish boyin al avodim. B'shvuas, there's no shvua on al avodim. Ve'einu mechuyev shvua klal. He's not mechuyev shvua. There's no moedah b'miktzas. There's nothing. V'gam zeh ha'tayveya ein shvua moyelis l'gveis. And the one is claiming there's no shvua. Why? Because he's swearing to take. The chol shvua says shebetayra nishboyim v'loy mishalmin. In other words, fellas, there's no shvua on the guy holding on to it. And there's no shvu that he can't swear that it's mine, and there's no shvu on the guy who wants to take it because there's no such, excuse the pun, animal. There is no such animal of you swearing to take. However, this guy comes up the following: except this guy, he decides, you know what? If you're willing to swear, I'm willing to give it to you. So this guy goes ahead and swears, and he says, "That's it." The one who's holding on to it cannot go ahead and change his mind. I was just joshing with you. Shari pata yisi, because I was pata. The gamay is chayati l'shvua, and you were not mechayat to me a shvua kadei l'shav avalito. They know them nishba v'naitel. In other words, there's no reason in the world that I have to give it to you. But once you went ahead and said you're going to do it, then you have to give it, and you can't change your mind. Good. Back in the Gemara. My kamash malon, Tanina, Amaloi. A guy says, Amaloi. A guy says to him the following. He says, Neman alai Abba. Now we're speaking about a Mishnah in Sanhedrin, and we're picking the dayanim. They're being seboira. They're picking the dayanim. Now, stamazoi, a father is a karev. He can't adjudicate the case, right? Adjudicate. He can't adjudicate the case. So now, however, this guy accepts it. So listen what he says. He says, Neman alai Abba, I'll accept your father as a dayan in our argument. Neman alai Avicha, or the other one says it's your father's belief to me. Or Neman alai Shleisha Roye Bako, who usually Royim are shy to be Gazlanim, grazing other people's field, and usually apostle, but they all say that what? Even though they're not Bekiyim and Din, they're not Bekiyim. Okay, again, not Bekiyim, I guess not Gazlanim, they would be apostle. They're not Bekiyim and Din. Yep. Even if they're masking to accept these Nabayanim, they're able to change their mind if they don't like the psak. Right? They're any yachal. So what's the chiddush over here of Rav Yosef Bar Chama to the Shiloh of Rav Abba? We learned that once you go ahead and make an acceptance, you accept things. He says, Rav Abba. There's a machloikis. In other words, not in the Gemara there. There's machloikis where be'etin lecha, where I will go ahead right and give. In other words, I accept this dayana, but you have to accept the psak as well. You have to accept be'etin lecha is machloikis over there. So the Kamash Malon, the chiddush over here that etin, even by etin lecha, it's agreeable. Another Shalach Olay Rav Abba Rav Yosef Bar Chama lahalach the halacha goyvin. You can collect your chayiv min avodim. You can collect. Let's say a father died, he had a chayiv, he left an eved to a yasam, right? Since an eved is hukish lekarka, you can collect it. Rav Nachman Amar ain't goyvin because that the hukish lekarka is only in kesef shtar chazaka lin in kinyonim. But regarding collecting a chayiv, there's no lien on an eved. There's no lien on an eved, okay? And who's the halach is like over here? So the Rashbam says, in this case, over here, if you look at the Rashbam, guys, when it gets wide, very wide, 4 lines down, and so this is the one place the halach is not that goyim and avodim. It's not going to be like what, like Rav Abba. Rav Abba said the halach is the goyim, the halach is ein goyim. So this is the one place not, and we'll touch it up later on. Another case. Sholach le Rav Abba Rav Yosef Bar Chama, halacha shlishi b'sheni. Okay, guys, let's get outside. You have Ruvain, his son. This is the cheshbon of the example given by the Rashbam. Ruvain has a son Chanoich, who has a son called Benji. His son Benji. So you have Ruvain, Chanoich, and Ben. You have Ruvain has a brother Shimon, who has a son Yemuel. So Ruvain and Shimon are generation number 1, right? Chanoich and Yemuel are generation number 2, and Benji is generation number 3. So we know Le'inyan Eidos, Kroivim Apostle Eidus. How far do we take that? So he wants a taina that Shlishi, this case is Benji, the 3rd generation, can testify on Yemuel, the 2nd generation of Shimon. In other words, his cousin, his second cousin, I guess. Right? Yemuel and Chanoch are first cousins, so Benji, Chanoch's kid, must be a second cousin, right? So you could halacha shlishi b'sheni. So Benji will be able to go ahead and testify on Yemuel. Kasha, Rava Omar, Af Berishon. Even Benji could testify on Shimon, generation number 1. In other words, what? Even generation number 1. In other words, his uncle, his yeah. Even the 1st generation, it's closer. It's closer than
3 to 1.
Yeah, because he is a closer. 3 is closer to 1 than he is to 2. 2 is just an offspring of 1. So since one is the correlated with his father, he's his uncle, right? He's his grandfather. Actually, his great uncle. His great uncle. So therefore, that's a chiddush. Rabbi says af b'rishain and ma b'ravashi achshe ba'aba da'aba. Not only that, he said he could testify on his grandfather. That Benji will be able to testify on Ruvain.
Okay.
Yeah, on Ruvain. So it says Gemara v'les silchas kama b'ravashi. The loch is not like ma b'ravashi. Sholach le Rav Abba Rav Yosef Bar Chama, a person sheyedeya be'edis karka. He knows, he's seen this person's land, he knows its dimensions, and then he loses his eyesight ad shaloi nistama. So he loses his eyesight, and before he loses his eyesight, he knows klar. So in other words, if there be a question about the exact boundaries, this person will be able to testify on the boundaries. However, now v'nistama, he loses his eyesight. Now he loses his eyesight. Puzzle, he's puzzle edis. He can't test the eye. He knows it. He's puzzle. Who Shmuel Amar? Shmuel's of the opinion. He disagrees with Rav Abba, and to Rav Yosef Bar Chama, he disagrees, and he says kasha. Why? Efshe de mechavim mitzarana. Perhaps he memorized the simonim. He could say the west side goes to this fence and the right side goes to the stop sign. You know, he recognized he has simonim. So since he has simonim, even though he's blind, he will be able to testify. Avol glima on a beged that is a standard standards, I guess, standard look, standard size, then what? Then loy. He won't be able to testify. That's Shmuel. So Shmuel, Tanakama, Rav Abba, he can't testify at all. Shmuel, he could testify in karka, but he can't testify in his shirt. Rav Sheshes, who happened to be blind, says he can even testify in his shirt. He can tell you how long it is and the collar size and whatever. Aval nascha, but on a shtick ingot of some type of metal, gold or silver, light. Rav Papa says the biggest chiddush, afilu al nascha she'efshin nemechaven midas mishkaloisav. So, according to Rav Abba, a blind person, even if he knew beforehand, can't testify at all. Shmuel qualifies. It's possible to testify in a field, but not a shirt. Rav Sheshes is even a shirt, but not a nascha. And Rav Papa, even a nascha, you would be able to. Why? Because you have a siman, the weight or the size, or the by the gleam of the size of the shirt. Meisive. Okay, we're asking the kasha now. A person be'edus actually nasa chasanoi. You know what? Edus, until you become what? A son-in-law. Once you become a son-in-law, no longer can you testify. Once you become a son-in-law, you no longer can you testify. Pikeach v'nischaresh. He was a normal person and he lost it. He lost his sanity. Or he lost his hearing and his sight. Piseach v'nistama. If he was normal and he lost his sight. Shipui, if he was normal v'nishtata and he became insane. Puzzle. In all these cases, he'll be puzzle. If what he knew Edis before chasnai, then v'nasa chasnai umeisa b'itay came. No, he was in, out, and now in again because the relationship is finished because his daughter Leilena died. Pikeach, he was in. V'nischaresh, he's out. V'chazim v'nispekach, he becomes normal again. He's back in. Pises v'nistama v'chazim v'nispatrach, back in. Shipur v'nishtata v'chazim v'nishtafa. Kasha. In all these cases, so there's no dichui by edus, right? We don't say since you're out, you're out. Zeh klal kol shetchilasai oisayfai bepaslos pasel. Anything that in the beginning or end you're out, you're out. Chilasai b'sayfai bekashrois. In the end, in the beginning, the end that you're normal, then kasha. Bottom line is, guys, we see that in the beginning, even if you're normal and you lose it, you're out. So this slugs up Shmuel, who said it's okay by a field. It slugs up Rav Sheshes, who said it's okay by a shirt, and slugs up Rav Papa, who said it's okay by an ingot, by a shtick. Tiyufta dekula tiyufta. In all these cases, it's a tiyufta. We slugged up all those three because clearly we have a brisa stating, you know what? If you're not good in the end, you're out. If you're not good in the end, you're out. Are you good in the beginning? It doesn't make a difference. Shalach Rav Abel Rabbi Yosef Bar Chama. Ha'omer al tinoik ben abonim. You say on a child ben abonim, Neman, he's believed to say it's his child. We'll see what halacha in a second. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ein a Neman, you're not believed. My karma, what is the case of you speaking about a child ben abonim, you're speaking about a child ben abonim that you believed, and then you're saying that what? That you're not believed. You're speaking about a child ben abonim that you believed, and then you're saying that you're not believed. My karma. Samar Abaya Hachi Kamar. Ha'omer al tinuk ben abonim, yiresh kol nechasai. If a guy says on a child between mabonim that he's my child and I want him to get all my nechasim, neman, he's believed like who? Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika. We met Rabbi Yochanan ben Breika, not officially. We met him previously. As long as you are an heir, you can go ahead. And mitaris Yerusha, you can give him everything, and it won't be masna mashakasa b'tayra. If you give it all to what? To a Yerush. So a guy, according to this, I'm saying that this child, I want to give this child ben abonim everything. You could do it like Rabbi Yochanan and Breika. That's the chiddush. So it's speaking in Yerusha, and you can give the whole Yerusha to what? A ben abonim, to one child among the bonim, right? And Rabbi Yochanan ain't an eman. Hirabanan who argue on Rabbi Yochanan, and they say that why it's mashla mashkasa b'tayra. Okay, now maskiv l'rava. It says that bein abonim nemon says Masler Rava hay nemon ve'enei nemon yiresh v'lo yiresh mi boile. If it's like you're saying pshat, right? If abaya, if it's like you're saying pshat, that's the din in Yerusha. Why are you saying believed and not believed? In other words, this is what you're saying. This child among the bonim is going to inherit everything, correct? So you shouldn't say Neman, he's believed that he can inherit everything. You should say Neman, that he's my child, that you didn't know before that he's my child. Neman's mashma, you didn't know something before and now he's believed. But according to what you're teaching up, you knew all along he was your child. What was the question? Whether he's going to be Irish or something. So the Lashon, Abaya, according to you, the Lashon is not Meduyik. The Lashon should not be Neman, ain't a Neman. It should be Yirish v'la Yirish. It should say he inherits, he doesn't inherit. Maskla Rava to Abaya. Hi Neman, vein a Neman. Yirish v'la Yirish mi boyle. It should say Yirish v'la Yirish. Ella Amar Rava says Ella Amar Rava. What's the case speaking about? I'll tell you. Shat bein abanim hachi kamar. Ha'omer ala tinak bein abanim b'charhu. If a person says a tinak bein abanim that he's my b'char, neman, he's believed. Kareb Yehuda, Yakir. So I guess even if you're muksik, you believed. Rabbi Yochanan Amar ein a neman. It's got to be not even if you're muksik. Dafke if you're muksik. The chachamim would be maida that you're neman if you don't know who the b'char is. The chachamim would be maida. Remember. The machlokes between the Chacham and Rabbi Yehuda is where you're muksik. So therefore, here's the way you read the Brisa. Ha'omer ala ben abanim neman. Like Rabbi Yehuda, you say that this is my bechar, then neman, you believe. So you know you're telling us the identity of a child. Shalach le Rav Abel Rabbi Yosef bar Chama. Ha'omer, a person says the following: that titel ishti, my wife should take ke'echad min habanim. Says the Rashbam, might be speaking about over here. The kibla, and she accepts this in lieu of her ksuba. Shenis ratzis, that she wants it. Kidl kamon bepirkin, like we'll see later on. So she could take this in lieu of her ksuba. Inami levar miksubasa nasan la chelik b'dechasav. I guess the first case, in addition to a ksuba must be then. First one's in addition to the ksuba. And now, inami levar miksubasa nasan la chelik b'dechasav. Aside from the ksuba, however, one more adjoinder. Ubishchiv meira mayri. It's speaking about a shchiv meira. Speaking about that someone who's holding on his deathbed. The devar kiksuvim ksum dami, that you don't need a kinyan. That his words they're like etched in stone. Inami bibari. It's a healthy person. Value they kinyan and they made a kinyan chalipin. They made a kinyan chalipin. Okay. So a guy says my wife should go ahead and collect bein abanim. She should collect among the children, like get a chelik like everyone else. So then they tell us kechem and abanim. Amarava provided the following: ubinechasim shel achshav. The only thing she would get is what's muchsik now, right now. Whatever they have right now, that and only that. But the chasim that comes afterwards, she would not get a piece of the action. In addition, ubibanim abanim la'achimikan. Let's say this is not speak. He was on his deathbed and he got better, or he's healthy, and children were born after that. Then she would take a chelik, not only with the children who are born before he stated this, but even those children as well will go to the cheshbon. So if he has 5 kids before him and his wife, and he has 2 more kids, she's going to divide it among 7 kids, not among what? Not among 5 kids. Not among 5 kids. Okay, I'm gonna stop over here because I'm not feeling so well. But that's Hashem. Tomorrow, it'll be tomorrow sometime. That's Hashem.